Hey, my name's David King, and I was born in Berkeley, California, and then 12 years old from Oakland, went to Napa. Parents moved to Napa, California, and that's where I went to school. And I didn't get my GED. I left high school and then got drafted, and yeah, that's right. I welded too, and. Got drafted and went through basic at Fort Ord, and then I went to AIT, Fort Sam Houston, medical training. I graduated top 3 in my class. So when I went to Fort Lee, Virginia, that's where I was assigned to before I went to Vietnam. I got to pick what I got to do, and so it was either between emergency or driving ambulance. Now the ambulance had a 421 V8 with 3 deuce progressive linkage and a 4-speed hydro, so you know what I took. So I drove ambulance, and then I volunteered for Vietnam. And let's see, I hit Da Nang, and then from there I went north. I think the first sergeant was trying to get me killed. He put me in there with 2 or 3 conscientious objectors. So where I was at was way up north by the border. I was at 160 something, 170 something aviation group, kind of combat zone there, and pretty close to the border. Huey, Snooks, and Cobras. And I was looking in after the first mortar attack. It was kind of funny. Hit Da Nang, a 500-man barracks. I went to sleep and slept about 3 days. I woke up, there wasn't anybody around. It's gone. So I ran out the front, and they were walking mortars down, you know. So I ran in the back, and first thing I thought was, where's my gun? Oh, that's right, another training too. I fired expert in 14 and 16 before I went over there. I was always using guns when I was young, hunting and stuff, and that helped me. And let's see, yeah, there was 3 rusted up M16s in the aid station. I didn't know at the time that was a court-martial offense for the flight surgeon, whatever. I'll tell you about that, what happened after that. But it took me 3 days to clean them up, and I test fired them. This conscientious objectors wouldn't even touch them, wouldn't go out and, you know. So I took them out. There was one accurate one, that was mine. That's the one I carried, and so. And then we were getting, the first months, we were getting 2 sessions of 5 rockets, enemy rockets coming in, twice a night, about 10 and about 2. And so that's where I turned 21, and it was better there were tin roof with screens, hooches we call them. And so we'd sit on top of it when it was coming in, because it's better to get it blown off the roof than up inside, you know. And fortunately, they missed, and the problem was we were stationed in the middle. We had the Hueys, the Cobras, and the Snooks, so if they overshot or undershot, we'd get it. And the 101st wouldn't dig out the bunkers, so there was no room in the bunkers. So medics had to, you know, sit on the roof. And then, so that went on, and then they kicked it up from 120s to 240s. And let's see. Well, one interesting thing, I used to go out to and post and do a little sightseeing, whatever you want to call it. and so yeah, I'd go out a post, and then, one time I went to get some more ammunition, and the supply sergeant said, we're out. I said, what? I guess something was going to happen. So he hands me a box, ammo box, and I opened it up, and I didn't know there was M16 tracers, all tracers. That's all I had, so I loaded up 3 or 4 clips, and I went out to post to the swimming hole, because it was when the monsoon season, and those big gorges over there, they get washed out, and then in the good weather, you get a swimming hole. So I was down there, and I drove down in there, and I noticed a great big tunnel cut out. And I went, whoa. And so I started shooting in front of it, all tracers, 3 or 4 round bursts. Then all of a sudden I'm looking, and here comes the wash, and here's a spotter chopper, and I read his lips. He goes, he's one of us. I went, yeah. And then come to find out, the only reason they didn't come out because I was using all tracers. I mean, it's the grace of God. I mean, it's 1 in a million. And so I was shooting tracers. They thought I had a minigun or something set up. And the reason they didn't come out, then I look up and there's two jets from a flat top out in the ocean, I guess, off the coast. They're going to do a double sortie with napalm, right? So I jump in, and I forgot I was naked at the time, except for my boots, and my 16. So I jump in the vehicle, went straight up the hill, and this concierge injector's going, let's go back to the post. I said, no, it's on the other side. I want to get pictures of this. I was crazy, you know. I had no fear. I was crazy. And so I'm sitting there with a little 110, and the pilot come down low enough because the gorge was deep enough, and each pilot took a double take on me. You know, I forgot I was naked, and I'm sitting there with the little camera going like this while they're dropping napalm. And then he goes, hey, and then the other guy says, put your pants on. I went, oh, gee. And so I know they filmed it. I mean, yeah, because they film all the napalm strikes, you know, and it took them a long time to dig it out. I don't know, and it's kind of hard to believe, you know, because I was using them tracers. They didn't come out. I guess they crispy crittered them in the tunnel. Thank God. And then I went back to the post, and then let's see, then. It was just hot and nasty, and then the monsoons, you know, if you're in the trench or something, you know, and watch the roofs fly off like frisbees, and, you know, and so the weather, and as soon as I hit country, I found out there was a bounty on medics then, because we were only medically trained. And so there was a year's salary if they cut your head off and got your dog tag, because we were the only ones medically trained. Now at least they train them pretty good. At least to stop the bleeding or something, you know, and I was happy about that. But they, so I had, and then it's like as soon as you hit country, it's like somebody takes some dog shit and puts it right under your nose. And it takes you about 3 weeks to get used to the smell. Then when you come back, they had us do 30 days in a hospital just to get the stink out. It was weird, yeah, and so that was it. And the coolest place, when we do a med cap, we take, you jump in a Huey, and we'd have backup with a Cobra or gunship, and we'd go out across the border somewhere and drop medical supplies to the people, but we had to sneak them in, because if they found out that we gave it to them, they'd kill their own people. And so we did that, and I remember it bothered me for years. One time I was cover. So I'd jump off the bird right there, and I'd look around and see if anything was around. I went in this little building, and I looked out the window, looked down, and there was all these fresh punzi sticks, and that they make. And they dig a latrine hole, and then put that in it, and then they urinate and defecate in it, and then cover it up so we'd come along and step in and get instant infection, you know. But they were there, and for years I forgot about. I felt bad about not busting a clip, you know, and wrecking them, but then I'm thinking, then they would have known we was there, and they'd have killed their own people, and so then I went, oh, that's right, if I'd have done that, it really would have caused a problem, so. But that's just, we fly medical supply. The coolest place in Vietnam was the helicopters.
Oh, wow.
And so that was about it. Besides them, you know, a lot of the rockets coming in, and so I don't know. Then
what do you think was the hardest part?
The hardest part of being the weather is just it was, and the bugs, the mosquitoes and the bugs. I mean, you could slap one of them things on the desk like that and they get up and fly away, you know.
Yeah.
They leave welts on. Yeah, it was that bug repellent they had smelled like diesel fuel or something, but.
It did.
And but it was just, yeah, the weather. The weather was really just. I mean, it was nasty, and you know, and then when the monsoons come in, you'd be freezing at 60 degrees with the rain, you know. So and then it's just hot. You're sweating all the time. I lost 60 pounds in 60 days when I got there.
Wow.
And
who was at home while you were over there? Who did you have at home?
Oh, I had nobody. I was my parents. They were still alive, and yeah, my mother sent me brownies. Oh, it's a good friend of mine, Joe Paralak. He's passed away now. He was a hero. He was a medic before me, and he's the one that talked me into, he grabbed me a hold when I was going to Fort Lee, Virginia with the ambulance and says, hey, come here, man. and all the guys were good. And yeah, he was he would send them. I think they were 4-tracks back then, weren't they?
8 tracks.
Yeah, 4-track tapes.
8 tracks.
No, the smaller ones.
Cassettes?
Yeah, cassettes. And that's the best time I had there, besides running around with my automatic. But I'm just a gun guy. And so yeah, it was great. That was the best time, because he would send, he'd sit around with his family, and he was from Philadelphia, Philly Joe Paralak, Paryllak. I want to mention him. I'll dedicate this to him, because that Agent Orange killed him. I got waylaid, and I finally got to Philly, and I called up, and I guess he was like 55. We're about the same age, and he died in the VA hospital. Whatever it was, died whatever he got from Agent Orange.
Oh,
Yeah, at least he had 2 kids. But yeah, he was my best friend at that time, and we didn't get really close. Those conscientious objectors, I couldn't believe it. That film that they had out, that big film, that guy, I don't know, there was a movie they made. That's propaganda, I mean, they go out there under fire, but if there's 2 guys, if I'm fighting 2 of them, you sit there and wait till it's over and then ask you if you're all right. They won't do nothing. And it just, I didn't think about that, much. I mean, I carried a weapon, and then when I put them back in the case after cleaning them up, they weren't accurate, but they were usable. They never touched them, just let them rust up. They wouldn't even clean them, And so that was one of the, I got along with them all right, but I mean, fortunately, we didn't do a lot out in the field, and we'd have to run a perimeter once in a while and stuff, but it was mostly the rockets coming in. It was like twice a night, and whatever. And then I don't know. And then the weather was lousy, and and then I remember we coming out of the hooch. There was called an attack duck. There was this duck, and I come out there in my flip-flops, and it bit me. And I turned around, just for reaction, I kicked him like a football, and he just shook it off. And apparently he was ducking this big snake that was eating rats underneath the hooch. So we had this big, whatever they are.
Rat snake?
I don't know,
A rat snake?
No, they're pythons or something. They're big boa constrictors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They had rats like that. Everything was big over there.
Can you show me where you were?
Yeah, let's see, South Vietnamese, way up around there. There's I got there right after the massacre at Quezon. You can't even Google it. You can Google the one before. But what they did, they overran us. I guess 300, and they took the time to cut the guy's testicles and penises off and shove them in their mouth.
Oh.
And make you want to kill all of them, And the Marines had to clean that one up. And but that was there's Quezon, and then I was up by the border somewhere, Camp Eagle, Camp Evans, and then who knows? I remember doing guard duty. You could see the border. And one funny thing, we were sitting there, and it was our first guard duty, and we lit it up. I used every flare. I used the white flares, green flares, red flares. And the last one, I hit it. Our backs we had railroad ties, and you take those 10 gauge flares and you could hit them, and it'd go off. Well, this last one, I went boom, and there's this 2-story nice grass hooch out there. I guess some local old guy, and it went right on top. Oh no! And it started on fire, and this old guy in white pajamas and a big old beard come out there and started yelling, right? And my buddy said, we're in trouble now. Well, we didn't get in trouble, but poor guy felt bad about that. But burned the guy's house down. But he didn't like it. Looked like he was a combatant, but just some old guy. But so we had a couple of good times. It was nasty for everybody. That weather was just, and then smell. It'd take about 3 weeks to get used to the smell. And then the bugs and insects, and fortunately I didn't get exposed to Agent Orange. A lot of my friends, they're still sick from it. I mean, they just dying. It's like A friend of mine, he was a Bronze Star recipient. His name was Buddy. They'd come in after 2 or 3 weeks, their uniforms just melting off of them, and there was no uniforms left because they sold them on the black market. I mean, it was a lot of guys had to use their water to wipe that stuff off. They send you in, you know, out just when it was fresh. It was terrible. I mean, it's like down in the 70s when they started spraying that paraquat stuff on the marijuana down there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was terrible. So many. But fortunately, I didn't get exposed to that. But,
was there anything that you did or that other people did that you knew of for what they considered good luck or protection, or did they?
Oh, I'm a believer now in Jesus. I'm a non-denominational,
Mm-hmm.
believe in the Bible, and I wasn't then. I didn't want anything to do with it, and my grandma prayed me through that. But no, we didn't talk religion. I guess I put down Protestant or something, but I didn't want anything to do with it. When I got back, we'd be out in the camp, and I lived out in the commune for a while up at Lake Tahoe and out in the woods. And you know, if somebody come out there, or a chaplain or preacher come out there, I'd get up and walk away. I don't want nothing to do with it. That was just my mind frame because of, you know, other stuff. But so no, we as far as good luck charms or not, you know, I wasn't superstitious. I never got involved in the occult or the magic, any of that crap. And then, that's one thing. When I got back, I went to got a job for a little while at Bechtel Engineering Corporation, and I'm the only one that I know of got fired for farting in an elevator. It was this friend of mine, a Sicilian guy. He was on the PDR's Coast Guard, running Navy SEALs and such, up doing ops, and you know, they run out of ammo. Had to go with a K-bar. So we were a couple of crazy Vietnam vets. Just got back, and we go for lunch across the street. They had you could get a 3-finger shot, whiskey, and a beer for 70 cents. So that's what we had for lunch, plus pickled eggs, right? So after work, right, me and my big mouth, after work, there's an express elevator on the 21st floor, and you're going all the way down. You know, it's going to take a minute. So we all get in there like sardines, and I'll let one go, a silent one. This woman behind me's gagging, you know, saying, don't breathe through your mouth, you know. And she was crying, and people were gagging. I mean, it was bad. It was terrible. And then this guy, me and my big mouth, right, because I had a few drinks, this guy next to me, you know, had a tweed jacket and all, you know, nice suit. And I said, excuse me, sir, just before we hit the bottom, I said, didn't you have any more class in the flatulate in the loaded elevator? It was one of the vice presidents. Took them 3 weeks to find me. They fired me. So that's what happened, man.
That's funny.
And in fact, I was the best man at his wedding. But
Did you continue any friendships after you left the service with your service buddies?
I was so terrible on paperwork. I mean, I even went blood brothers with guys. We had addresses, you know, and I mean, I couldn't even hold on to a wallet more than 6 months probably. I don't know, I'd lose stuff. I drank quite a bit. I was drinking about a quart of tequila a day when I got back. And then all of a sudden, I said, hey, I got to sober up and start doing something. So I learned how to rappel and climb trees and do mountain climbing using that equipment. I got a tree service going. Okay. And then big trees out west of Lake Tahoe, and the big redwoods, the big white firs and ponderosas. And then I got a contractor's license in California. And then I did landscape design and installation. And then I couldn't do that anymore. My knees got bad, so I got my commercial driver's license and went to see our beautiful United States of America. Every state has something good.
That is good. Do you attend any reunions or anything like that?
No, I lost contact. The one guy, Joe Perlack, I still remember how to spell his last name, but he's the only number I kept. And I'd call him once in a while when I was driving around, you know. But then the one time I got through there, and then I hadn't heard from him, and he passed away in the BA. It's terrible. I guess he had diabetes or whatever. I hadn't talked to him in some years, but so he was the only one. Let's see. Now my best friend in AIT, Charlie, I don't remember his last name. We were best friends at Fort Sam Houston, and I lost his number. I went to West Virginia one time. I went through there and I saw on the wall. I was hoping he was on. We call him Weekend Warrior. You know, he was just National Guard. We went through basic together. Was it basic, and then ended up at AIT together. Yeah, I think it was, yeah. And great guy from West Virginia. So I went by there and I saw on the wall there were a couple of Charlies. Well, it doesn't mean, you know. And so I didn't know how to get. I didn't remember his last name. I was terrible on paperwork, so I lost everybody's. The only thing I had, I think we had the yearbook or some kind of book, you know, they give you in basic training or something.
Okay.
And so.
Have you tried looking, like there are a lot of different agencies or veterans offices or stuff where you can, the Navy Times, the Army Times and stuff like that, where you can put out, you know, hi, remember
I'm
me.
looking for who served there, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hadn't thought about that. I remember people's first names, and most of them, so it's a blur now. And because I got out, let's see, and then went right to drinking, and then stopped that, and I went up to Lake Tahoe, and got tree service going. I learned it down in the Bay Area, ornamental trimming, dangerous takedowns, and I could manicure a big oak. I could make a canopy out of a 200-foot eucalyptus tree, rappelling around. I just really liked it.
Oh, wonderful.
And so I integrated some mountain climbing. I did a little search and rescue for a while, but I always, and I saved some lines over here. It sticks with you. My mother was a nurse for 42 years, so I had the aptitude of that. I could have been a helicopter pilot, just for another 9 months, but they talked me out of it. They said, we'll guarantee you live about 40 minutes when you hit country. Half of them were killed.
Right.
You know, unfortunately. In fact, that's what happened with a flight surgeon. This guy, I got burned, but I mean, to save a court-martial, I guess he set me up, but because I didn't know it was a court, I didn't even think about it being a court-martial effect, having, you couldn't, undefendable aid station. I mean, you couldn't eject a round in either of those weapons. And but what he'd do, unfortunately, helicopter pilots come in with hemorrhoids. His name was Major Juneau, and he was a flight surgeon then. And what he did, he'd take catgut, he'd tie him around the hemorrhoids and cut them off. And he wouldn't even sew them up. And then he'd anesthetize them, and then he'd send them back out flying. Can you imagine after an hour and a half? Well, they're not thinking about dodging a 51 coming back in the same way. They're trying to get, I mean, it's terrible. So I don't know. But then he set me up for an Article 15 or something. I found out later, I figured it out later. I was young and dumb. You know, I could do war good, but I was emotionally immature, you know, like the rest of it. And I figured it out later that whatever. And so to save himself, he wrote some bad stuff. Just said I was a bad soldier, this and that, or whatever. And he suspected me of doing this without any proof, you know. And so, whatever. So that's just one of them things that I figured that first sergeant sent me up there with a conscientious objector trying to get me killed. You know, but
that gives you the idea of the army of one. They say the army of one.
Oh yeah,
you're all by yourself.
Well, yeah, you know why the Marines are always first, don't you? Get there, digging the swimming pools for the Army. Now, General Boykin said that. I can't take credit for that.
That's okay.
I heard his testimony.
What are some of the life lessons that you think you've learned from the military?
Oh, heavy patriotism. I mean, it was always in the blood. I go back to Roger Williams' society, back to 1600, so I am a native son, and it's in the blood. Then I go back, I'm Scottish, then I go back to the first King of Scotland, Kenneth MacAlpin clan, or Kenneth the First. Whatever, I didn't know that until my parents died or my father died. I just found they never mentioned any of that, whatever. Maybe I'd have acted different, probably not. But life experience, yeah, just patriotism and being a medic. I'm glad I did that because I've saved lives over here too. I mean, it's such a good feeling to save a life, you know? I mean, I'll defend my country and take them if I have to, but, you know, I'm just a dog-faced medic. Because I didn't used to be dog-faced, I was a pretty good-looking kid. But so yeah, that medic and patriotism, heavy duty. You know, it's been that way. In fact, when I got back, this Sicilian friend of mine that was working for Bechtel, this old guy came in the States illegally because apparently he was teaching this kung fu. So we did that for a while, but then the magic thing. I've talked to Chinese moles over here. I figured they were, and I'd say, "You into kung fu?" And they go, "Kung fu." And I say, "No magic." They go, "Yeah, magic." So they're basically assassins, you know. But I took what I could from it, and most of the different self-defenses and whatever. That saved my life over here a few times, getting jumped. But yeah, that and so you know, I enjoyed carrying a rifle. You know.
Do you remember the day when you got out of the Army? Do you remember coming?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, as a matter of fact, yeah. Me and this guy, I met him at. We flew back in a hospital ship from Japan to Travis Air Force Base in 8 hours flat, and let's see. We ended up. We were both mustered out. He was from Southern California. I think his name was Cunningham or something, and we got mustered out together, and what was the question? What
Do you remember the day you got out?
Yeah, we were mustering, so we were going to get mustered out, so it was right around New Year's, so, well, we went AWOL anyway. We were going to come back, and so, yeah, we went to the Rose Parade or whatever it was, drinking champagne, and having a heck of a time, and then, then I stayed down there for a while and visited the co-ed dorms. That was fun. And yeah, I'm going to the bathroom, right? And all of a sudden these 3 young, good-looking women come in with their little nighties on. I'm going, dang. But yeah, it was like, I met the first one I met that I stayed with, we ended up, people walking by and we're doing it in the bushes. It's crazy. Jeez. And, so that's so I remember that, yeah. And then I got up, went back to, that's one thing. I went to see my grandma because she did the best part of teaching me, raising me, and as far as, you know, caring for me and stuff. And so I knocked on the door. She came to the door and she's looking. And I'd only been gone a year or two, and she's looking and she goes, I said, "It's me, Grandma." She goes, "Oh, you look so old." I was still a kid, you know, so. But that's what you get for being in a combat zone, I guess.
Yep.
So, no big deal.
Sorry.
Yeah, then I finally went through the drinking phase, you know, heavy duty drinking, and I wake up out in the woods on a stump, and the only way I could find back to camp was all the broken limbs I broke on the way out. So I wasn't into hurting anybody, I was just getting drunk, you know. And then decided I needed something the adrenaline, you know, I needed some adrenaline. So I learned how to climb them big trees, and I found out that I was afraid of heights. So I had to get over that. I'm up 100 feet, now I got to go to work. And so I got over it, and I started liking it, repelling, and integrating a little mountain equipment with the climbing stuff, and then going down the Bay Area and setting up scaffolding over the rhododendrons and manicuring the big oak trees and stuff. And so it was an honest way to make a living. Really, you know, I enjoyed it. I didn't mind risking my life, paid the rent. It was fun, you know.
Did you tap into any GI benefits or anything like that?
No, I didn't even go to the VA or anything. They kept telling me, "Well, tell them you're crazy, you can get some money." I says, "I owe $2,000-3,000 a month. What are you talking?" You know, a lot of these guys just went for the non-service or whatever, you know. And I go, "No, you know." So it was not until my knees got bad or whatever. I had some injuries. That I went to the VA, and I went to, then when I was 45 and 95, I got my knees cleaned out, and I needed replacements then, but I was too young, and then they replaced them when I was in '06. I had them both done the same year. And then I have both hips done, and then I have my shoulder replacement. I'm all stand. It's 4.5 to 1. I used to swim pretty good underwater, and now I jump in, I go right to the bottom.
Steel doesn't float, huh?
Yeah, so that's when I got involved in '95. Well, early '80s for a little bit, and then it got so bad I was taking 4 to 8 codeine number 4s a day just to get to climb on trees, and that was enough. And then I was undercut so bad from these guys, I was honest, and they didn't want that, so that's all right. It was time to leave, and I got my commercial driver's license in Nevada, and then took off and went to see the United States.
Yes, that's good. How does your experience with war affect the way you think about it nowadays?
That's terrible. Oh yeah, until you experience it, and guys are getting shot and they're getting their testicles cut off and shoved in their mouth and stuff, and it's terrible. You see pictures of World War II and stuff, but until you, now it's what's going on, and hopefully, I don't know how we're going to get around it with us being invaded, basically. I went to Colorado Springs, right? The Air Force there, they brought in 2 shiploads, right after they murdered our Marines, they brought 2 plane loads of Afghanistan, supposedly immigrants, right? I talked to a lieutenant colonel, active. I said, "What do you think about that?" I said, "They put him in, and then they went right to this, on the way up to the VA down there, they had this House of Islam." And I'm not a Muslim phobe, but there was hundreds of them, right? Up and down. And to tell you, it's, I said, "What do you think about it?" Well, first I thought it was a good idea, really. So, immigration without assimilation is an invasion. We've been invaded. There's 30 million, not 7 million, there's 30 million. And, I guess I better not get political.
It's okay, this is your interview.
Yeah, well, they recorded, they found a recording on film of Obama talking about he wants 100 million immigrants to make us a third world nation. And they want 100, and they tell you there's 7 million. No, there's 30 million actually here, more every day. So apparently the cartels are running the border, and then they've got 100 places around the United States. There's Sharia law. You know what Sharia law is? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it's terrible. And some of these mayors get in, and whatever, and governors or mayors, and then they just, it's terrible. So hopefully, I pray to God, my feeling about war is terrible. And I've known a lot of, from friends in, Red Beret, Tiger Sharks, the Navy SEALs, to Special Forces, or just grunts, they're special. And it's terrible. It's, if we go, and especially here, we haven't experienced it, but if I don't know how we're going to avoid urban warfare to get them out. I don't know how. So it's terrible. So that's my feeling on war. It's terrible. I want to have a log cabin with a horse named Dog and a dog named Horse and a good-looking woman that likes me. that's enough. I'm 73 years old. I don't need to go to war. Yeah. None of us do. So women and children take the worst. They
yeah.
Well, the kids and then the older folks.
So what does patriotism mean to you? You mentioned patriotism is important to you. What does patriotism mean to you as an individual? How would you describe it?
I regret I only have one life to give. And I've been, for some reason, here and there, I run into stuff in the last 50 years. I don't know. I just, and whatever I've been jumped, I've had to defend myself against 2, 3, 4, even 5 people one time. I walked away, the cops were hauling them off, but I love this country, and my parents the same way. My dad was just a pacifist, my mother was a nurse, but they went through World War II. She was a nurse for World War II.
Wow. And
she didn't serve in the military, she was a civilian nurse, but it's just in the blood. I'm a native son. Like I said, I go back to the Roger Williams Society, direct descendant there. It goes back to 1600 and something. So, you know, it's just in the blood. But the military really, you know, woke me up to it. I was kind of running amok then, you know, partying, and I wasn't really doing anything. I did a little welding at Kaiser Steel Corporation, and you know, a job here and there, but it straightened me out. I would have ended up in prison if I hadn't gone in the military, probably. And you know, yeah, I was going to get in trouble. I know I would have, and then something stupid, and then it woke me. Oh, it stopped me from being prejudiced. I was raised in Oakland until I was 12. I used to get beat up and spit on, you know. And but then I learned how to. My mother dropped me off at Telegraph Avenue, the YMCA, when I was 7. Learned how to swim, thank God. But you know, and then until I got in the military, my best friend, me and Joe Paralak, and my other best friend was a black guy. He was a pharmacist. He invited me into his home and everything, and that just changed me, you know, because I didn't know anything else, you know. And my parents weren't, and my grandma didn't talk like that. But I was the one getting beat up. In fact, one time. This Hamilton Junior High was like 3/4 black. My mother didn't want to bother with me, so I had to go in the school where my grandma lived. And one day I did this paper route. They stopped me, took my papers, and smacked me, bang. And I guess because I didn't cry, they didn't take my bike or something. I just sat there and went, dang, that hurt. So I went to school with a black eye. They suspended me for fighting. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. And my mother went along with it. And I got beat up on paper route. But so that was one of the reasons I admit, you know, that's all I knew. And then I got in the military. Oh, well, then we ended up fighting the Chicanos in Napa. But then the military, you know, changed that. I mean, it did a lot for me. I mean, it's, you know, I'm the man I am today. I mean, I believe in God, you know, and I ain't no mamby-pamby Christian. I got my big boy pants on, you know, but yeah, it's just, no, it was great. I mean, those experiences, I like to remember the good times. I mean, there was always bad stuff, but yeah, it just got me over being, I mean, I don't see color. I look it in the eye, you know. I don't see it at all. I can't stand these people. I don't even watch a movie that's like that. I can't stand it. But yeah, that did that for me. And yeah, Shelley, he was a good guy. Yeah, I met a lot of good, you know, everybody is, and I get along with vets a lot better than civilians. I mean, I can gab with the best of them. I can say tomato or mater, you
Now,
know.
do you see a difference in the way veterans are treated from the time you got out to the way they're being treated today?
Oh,
and
yeah.
do you think it's better or worse?
Well, from what I've seen it's better, and I'm glad they medically train them a little bit, so at least they, you know, they don't get a spider bite and don't even know how to anesthetize and lose a leg. But it's getting better as far as medical treatment now, but as far as being out. But the guys I talked to, I mean, geez, I was in a combat zone. I got flight pay, combat pay, whatever else kind of pay you get in the combat zone, and I was taking home $400 a month. They're taking home what, $4,000 a month, right, or whatever it is. I mean, it was like in basic training. I think I got $72 a month, and that's where I got my GED. But it's like, you know, so yeah, it's better. The equipment's better, you know, and that's what I see. I talked to combat vets guys that were over there 6-7 years, 6-7 tours, and they come back and they're buying $80,000 pickups. So, hey, something's happened. Something that, you know, better than when we were in, and we got treated like baby killers. We weren't baby killers, and it was terrible. Yeah, Jane Fonda over there, while she was having sex with the Russians, you know, with down talking us, there was like the Russians. There was one Russian sniper. Got what, 51 kills of us, and they'd sacrifice 100 of them Vietnamese just to get one of us. You know, it's terrible. But no, I think you know, it's basically those skirmishes like that or whatever, kind of just like Kuwait. You know, it was like a testing ground, and they wanted to use up all their old ordinances and stuff. Then they let them. Saddam they had them, and they let them go. Was it Schwarzkopf and Colin Powell? And then they let them burn out. It was that's insane. But the equipment, I talked to guys, you know, all through all the skirmishes and wars and stuff, you know, the equipment's better, and but boy, the bummer is over there. I know guys, a couple of guys I talked to, vets, they can't drive. They're looking for IEDs. Yeah, everything. Yeah, it's terrible. And it said, see, that's one thing we didn't have though. You didn't have the 24/7 adrenaline. You know, always looking. If you're always out there wasn't always, you know. And every once in a while, you know, they'd have somebody tied off with a satchel charge and stuff. But you know, we didn't have that 24 adrenaline. So a lot of these guys are messed up. And then one reason why the suicide rate didn't go down, because I had 3 psychiatrists admit to me that they prescribe medicine that changes the molecular structure of your brain, melts your brain. And there's a Dr. Jackson III, it's called the God prescription. He's a neurosurgeon, and Carolyn Leaf is a neuropsychiatrist. And you don't need any of that. You can detox your brain in 21 days. And I'd recommend that to anybody. The God prescription is, if you're not laughing, think about laughing. Ha ha ha. Mm-hmm. And some exercise, good nutrition, and meditate. You know, you got to do some meditating, preferably on the Bible. But you know, I mean, it's got to clear your mind, and you can do it, and then you do it again, and you don't need any of that stuff. And that's why the suicide rate, I mean, it's terrible. You know, when you change the molecular structure, it's like you hit electricity on a snake bite. It changes the molecular structure. It changes its form. That's what it does to your brain. That's why the guys can't think, and they take themselves out. It's terrible. So that's my warning to trying to help the vets. I've had them ask me. This guy says, "Hey, my brother's messed up. What, you know, what's going on?" I said, "Don't let him take that medicine. You don't need it." And you know, and if you need, go talk to somebody, that's fine. But I got him to admit it. In fact, I went in to check to make sure I wasn't insane, right? And I'm out there. I'm in some other state, and I go to a VA in the mental ward, and I'm sitting there. They're supposed to clean you out for 72 hours. You know, let you sit, and then they talk to you. No. They they got me all kinds of medicine, and then they wanted me to talk to a Chinese psychiatrist, didn't speak English. And they got some FBI guy sitting there, and he's interpreting, right? And I'm going, whoa, everything's backwards here. And then he said he wanted permission to talk to my doctor. I said, no, this conversation's over. I got him walked out, and tried to get them guys to stop taking that. I mean, it's one thing to, but you know, try to help them, but that changes the molecular. I mean, it's, so that's my warning to everybody, and tell your friends. You know, if you're going to lose your income, see, they threaten them with their income. So just take some of that there and throw it in your urine. Heck with them, you know, whatever. I mean, this might save your life. Well, whatever. That's my opinion. And I got 3 of them to admit it. And one of them went, ooh, like he wasn't supposed to say nothing. That's how I get them to admit it, because the survival tack could be taken, alligator clip. I've done it to myself. An alligator clip on both ends. You pull a spark plug wire. You zap yourself 3 times. Instant healing. Kills it. Turns it into usable protein. Do you know that?
No, I did not know that.
And yeah. And
I don't know that I'd want to do an alligator.
Well, yeah, yeah, you're a little sore, but I mean,
then I don't take medication, so that's okay.
Well, yeah, well, that isn't. I mean, the reason. No, that isn't what I'm talking about. I would lead into it, get them to admit to it. And say, change the molecular structure. Oh, by the way, do you prescribe medicine to change the molecular structure of your brain? They go, oh yeah, oh. They weren't supposed to say anything. No, that's the only reason I bring that up. And but it is survival. It's any kind of snake bite or whatever. So, yeah. Anything else?
If you got a young person looking at your video, what do you want them to know about you and your service?
Oh, well, like I said, I took an oath over 50 years ago to defend my country from foreign and domestic enemies, and I'm still serious about it. So, hey, this might not be a real good time to go in, because we need everybody here right now, I believe, and hopefully we don't go into urban warfare, whatever, so I'm just praying for that. But if you're going to go in, well, I don't know. They give you aptitude tests, but now, in my opinion, now it wouldn't be a good time to go in.
Okay.
You know, so.
Is there anything else you'd like to say on your video?
No, let's see. Well, just what else you got to lose? If you're having problems or whatever, just say, ask Jesus to come into your life and show up. What do you got to lose? Because and He'll show up, and you don't have to say it in front of anybody privately. He showed up with me. I had no idea, and I said the words because my father wanted me to. And my first peaceful dream in my life, I wasn't in a battle, was when I seen this peace come over me, and I knew He existed. I was in my mid-20s, so you know, just hey, if you have problems, you know, you can. I've tried pulling up my bootstraps, and it works for a while, you know. And just remember, it's not an insult, but depression is selfishness. That's, I mean, you know, me, and I was depressed up and off and on until I was 60, and it's like slapped me in the face. And I went, yeah, I mean, you can mourn somebody's loss. That's not depression, you know, and or whatever. You're having a bad day, but so just say the words and dare them to show up. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your story.
Okay, thanks for having me.